Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing? I'm Jack Bigadoo. I'm also known on this whiskey street as the Hood Sommelier. If you're here, happy Whiskey Wednesday. It's Wednesday. You may be working or sitting at your desk, sneaking and looking at us, but let me tell you, it'll be worth it to actually take the little lunch hour to chat with one of these distilleries that I've been trying to get on for a while. I'm glad we finally are talking. Heard great things, tried great things. It's almost this unassuming brand that obviously is making amazing, amazing whiskey. But today I brought the man himself to come here so we can hear all the secret, all all the ins and out of what happens at this distillery and what's the mystery behind this distillery. This is no other than A. Smith Bourne, and that's the distillery. And we brought our man distiller at the distillery, David Bock. David, how you doing, man?
Howdy, thanks for having me.
Man,
Um,
it's my pleasure to have you. You are the coolest man of the hour right now.
in,
So
in the group, I don't know about that, but I appreciate the compliment.
so really, really quickly, David, tell the people who are you. All right, who are you, and what do you do at A. Smith Bowman Distillery?
Yeah, so my name's David Bock. I'm the distiller here at A. Smith Bowman Distillery. So the title is kind of all encompassing. So it's everything that is involved in running a distillery, right? So I'm not only making sure that the distillate coming off the still tastes right, creating the blends that go into all of our batches. I'm tasting all the barrels that come through, picking the lots and the different barrels, as well as we have a home place here. So I'm doing, trying to run or help organize that and run that and try to have a successful gift shop. And then, there's human resources, there's emails, there's capital projects that have to get done. There's a little bit of accounting, a little bit of taxes, a little bit of compliance. I have a really strong team here, so it's not just me. I have a great team here that's been doing this for a while and are really, really great and help me do that. But I kind of oversee all those aspects of running a distillery.
Will it be fair to call you a jack of all trades?
I don't know. I know a little bit about a lot. I don't know a lot about many things, but
To be able to wear all those hats, that means that your operation is not that big. You and your team actually kind of run the whole thing uh, as a whole, right?
yes. So we do produce a good amount of volume here, but we're not one of the largest distilleries in Sazerac. So we are part of a large organization called Sazerac. They own multiple facilities around the globe, and so we are part of that family. And so what's nice about that is if I ever have any questions about how, if my fermentation's going sour or sideways or something else
Correct.
is happening, I have the backing of other distillers and other team members at other sites that can help me with those issues and with those problems. So that's always a nice kind of catch in it.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, A. Smith Bowman, pioneer spirit. Tell us a little bit about the distillery because Virginia, as a whole, right, doesn't necessarily or always necessarily uh what do you call it? Doesn't necessarily is known for all the production of whiskey, but this brand has been here long before, some of the brands that we know today to be in Virginia. So how has that happened? Right? How has that happened that a brand that been known and long before now revives and is new and is here and more people know about it now?
That's
What's the story behind it?
all right. So the distillery started 2 years after Prohibition. Started with a gentleman, A. Smith Bowman, and his two sons. And they were up in Sunset Hills Farm, which is in Northern Virginia. They had a large farm, and they used that grain from that farm to create the distillery. And so they started making Virginia Gentleman, right? So that was the product that they were producing there. And they ran that place successfully for a number of years. And then when the father passed away, the two sons eventually sold that distillery to a developer who developed the farm into homes and residentials and a whole town. And they later turned that town into Reston Town Center. So if you know Reston, they sold the farm to Robert E. Simon. And so over the years, as the population continued to increase and encroach and get closer and closer into the distillery, in the 80s, they decided to move the distillery from Reston to Fredericksburg. And so we actually moved here in 1980. I want to say it's 86, but it might be a little bit, it might be like 88 or 89. But we moved here in the 80s. And we started making, and we just continued to produce alcohol here. And then in 2003, Sazerac purchased us, and then what they decided to do was they decided to rebrand us as A. Smith Bowman Distillery and refocus us as more of a craft distillery. And so we pulled out a lot of the large production that we were doing to make Virginia Gentleman and refocus on being the craft arm of Sazerac. And since then, we've continued to grow and continue to produce really good spirits that are kind of, like I said, hand produced and triple distilled.
So I want to be able to understand as a craft distillery now, what are the things that you guys are producing right now at A. Smith Bowman? Like what are the things that are part of your day-to-day activity production that goes on the market, either in the Virginia market or all around the US?
So we have our bourbons. We have a Bowman Brothers small batch bourbon we do here. That's about a 6-year-old whiskey. And then we do a port barrel finish. That's the one. I got that one right here on my desk as well. We have a port barrel finish. So we take whiskey and let it rest in a port barrel anywhere from 3 to 6 months. That's called Isaac Bowman. And then all these brands were named after the sons of the Bowman family that fought in the Revolutionary War. Right. And then we have our single barrel, which is our John J. Bowman. That's a 10-year. We try to keep that around 9.5 to 10 years old. And then that is our cast strength. Cast strength is no water added. We take some barrels, we blend them together, and we put it out like that. So you have the opportunity to try that at what we taste it like when we taste those barrels. On top of bourbon, we also make some gins and vodkas. We have a deep run vodka, which is named after the creek that runs in front of the distillery. And then we do gins as well. We have a Tinkerman's Brighton Complex and a Tinkerman's Citrus Supreme. There's the vodkas and one of our gins. And then we also do a rum, our George Bowman rum, which is a Caribbean style rum that we get that's really, really delicious as well. And so we do all of those products, as well as we're continuing to experiment and continuing to try to make different things that we could later bring online. So we have like an experimental line. We have an Abraham experimental. We recently released our American oak. It was like a 12-year-old American oak Abraham. So if we're doing experimental stuff, we can release it as that. And then the other really special release we have is that cast strength that you showed earlier.
Okay. That, I mean, you're doing a lot. You literally are doing a lot. Now, first hard question of the interview before, you know what? Let's pour some whiskey before I ask the first hard question on there. We're gonna start with the standard option, what I believe is the small batch of the boom. So while we pouring that, let's start with the first hard question of the day. First hard question of the day. I need you to disparage or correct this roaming rumor in the whiskey industry that have been going around for quite some time. And I hope today we nip it in the butt forever, so I never have to actually sit in the middle of a tasting and have to argue with somebody again when they're telling me, oh, Bowman is just a cheaper version of Buffalo Trace. It's the same thing. No, it's not. It's just, if you're smart, you either buy Buffalo Trace or you're that. Now you mentioned that you both are part of the same family, which makes sense. So this is especially for the people on TikTok, because TikTok people love to argue a lot. So for that reason, I want to hear from the man himself and from the people themselves to say, hey, what is happening exactly in this sphere? Is quote unquote uh Bowman just another better version? Because I'm looking on this bottle right now, and the first thing that actually popped in my mind is copper distill. There's just that thing that say copper distill, which you don't see a lot in the in on things. But tell me, if am I crazy, or is this a thing? Is Bowman just Buffalo Trace that have been putting makeup on and put in a bottle? Or is Bowman itself creating their own whiskey and maybe sourcing some of their whiskey through? Or is Bowman using the same mash bill that maybe Sazerac also have? So today I want us to just nip this in the butt forever. And I'm going to record this part of the interview specifically and repost it. So all of you whiskey nerd can stop all the rumors about the whole Bowman is just Buffalo Trace. It's like almost like you go to Buffalo Trace, you take your whiskey there, you bring it to Bowman and say, now it ages in Virginia. That's it, right? So let's nip this in the bud once and for all, so all the whiskey nerd can stop.
All right. We don't talk about it. No, I'm joking.
Is it Bruno? We don't talk about Bruno.
That's right. No. So remember, we started up in Reston, and when we moved down to Fredericksburg, we had a master distiller. His name was Joe Dangler. And so Joe Dangler didn't want to put in a dry house. When you go to those big distilleries, what happens is once the distillate is run through the column and you have all the juice that you want, you're left with a slop, is what we call it in the industry. And it's all the fiber and it's all the proteins and it's some of the water that's left over. And what you have to do with that is you have to get it out and either give it to a farmer to feed cattle or dog food or however else you want to do it. I don't think dog food. I think it's normally used for livestock. But you have to kind of dry it out, and it takes a lot of effort, and it's very challenging to run. So what Joe Dangler decided to do was he's like, well, why don't we ask another distillery to do our fermentation, our mash bill, and our primary distillation, and then they'll send it to us, and we'll run it through our still, and that way we don't have to deal with all those grains and that slop. And so he reached out to, at the time it was Buffalo, or at the time it was Ancient Age, which became Buffalo Trace. And so Buffalo Trace was so that was the original way that we did it. We asked them to do it. Now, today, we say that we get it from a sister distillery, right? So a sister distillery does our fermentation, our cooks, our fermentations, and our primary distillations. And then they send us that juice, and we take it and we run it through our still, so we can, so on the bottle, well, not on Bowman Brothers, but our bourbon is all triple distilled, right? So we run it through 3 times. By doing that third time, normally when you smell bourbon and taste it, you get kind of a corn forward note. But with our triple distillation, we get a lot more floral pieces that come across. And it really, I think, helps bring out more of the sweeter notes of the whiskey than what you would typically find with just a double distillation.
Okay, so to put it in layman's word, and people that don't understand whiskey jargon, the first part of making whiskey, from grains to fermentation to distilling maybe twice, goes through your sister distillery.
Correct.
Then from there, it comes to you, and you run it one more time to your copper still, and then you actually put it in barrels to be matured for it to become
That's
Bowman
right. That's
Brothers
right.
or
That's how we finish it. So we'll finish it with that third distillation, and then put it in our barrels and age it here on site. And so then we put it in our warehouse, and we have lots of warehouses aging. And then as time comes up and the age hits right notes and it's tasting right and the juice is ready, we'll pull it out of our warehouse, and we do the blending, the cutting, and the filtering and bottling all right here on site.
Okay. So The answer, we've had now our answer forever. So for all of you whiskey nerds, this is the answer. So it is made out of we're gonna call sister distillery. So a Sazerac, one of the Sazerac distillery is so the mash bill then is the mash bill chosen by Bowman. There's a specific mash bill to Bowman. Is that the same as other expressions of Sazerac, or is it equal? And you don't have to answer this because mash bills can be, secret in the industry. But I have to ask: is the mash bill the same? We know Sazerac with Buffalo Trace have two mash bill one, mash bill two. Is Bowman mash bill one or mash bill two, or is Bowman its own mash bill?
That we do not talk about. We don't
Okay,
say
that's the Bruno part. We don't talk
That's
about
right. We don't
Bruno.
talk about that part. And so that's not to say that we're not doing our own fermentations and cooks. We are doing that here,
Okay.
right? So we're making malt whiskey, we're making some rye whiskey, we're making all these other types. So if I want to change what our standard either grain bill is, or I want to try a different yeast, or I want to try something else that would affect our standard distillate, then we do that here on site. And so we have the ability to mill and to cook and to strip, do that first primary distillation and run it all the way through like normal. And we do that, but typically those will come out as like a special release Abraham, because we are changing
Okay.
up that mash bill, and we are changing up either another aspect of what our standard route to the barrel would be.
Okay. So there is modification happening to it. It's not just straight something coming from Sazerac coming in, or certain things that you are bringing your own touch to it,
Correct.
right? Okay. So let's talk about your standard expression, which will be your small batch. Tell me a little bit about it. I have it poured in my glass. I'm nosing it right now. I want to hear more about it. We know is 90 proof, so it's 45%
That's
ABV.
right. It's 90 proof. It's about a six-year old bourbon that we have here. We blend about 20 to 23 barrels together prior to chilling and filtering, and then we put it out, like you said, at 90 proof. What I like about this one again are those floral aspects. Right, you're going to keep hearing me say that because I really do think it's a very distinguishable piece of our bourbons and of our whiskeys. The nose on it is not corn heavy, is not grain forward. You get a lot more floral pieces, a lot more like stone fruit, maybe is a better term for that. But that's our standard one that we have right there. The palate
Hmm.
is sweet. It's not super hot. There's not a lot of like peppery notes in that. It coats the tongue nicely, and the finish lasts for a decent amount of time prior to kind of evaporating off your tongue.
Um, what's that? I'm getting a little bit of those wood tenant here. So what's the average age of those barrels that are being blended in that small
Like I said, we
batch?
try to do that around 5.5 to 6 years old. I always try to aim for 6 years old for this Bowman Brothers. Sometimes it sits a little bit longer. Sometimes it sits a little bit less. Typically, it hardly ever sits less. I really don't try to pull it earlier, but I got to listen to the whiskey and listen to when it's ready, right? So that's why you won't often see an age statement on our bottles,
Statement, yeah.
because um, stuff happens, right? This is a long time to sit in a barrel, and it can go faster or it can go slower. So when you kind of put that age statement on there, you're stuck with it. And so no matter what happens after that, you have to be within that age range. And we found that lots.
And let's not talk about the
That's right.
legalities as well.
And we found that different warehouses age differently, as you would imagine. And so sometimes when I'm pulling out of our F warehouse versus our A warehouse, it's a different profile that those barrels are giving. And so we kind of have to manage that by when we're going to pull them and what kind of mix we're going to do in that blend.
All right. All right. So obviously from there, you got other expression on the market. I believe the one that I got sacrificed one time on the industry for, because you are probably one of the people that did something that I appreciate, but yet people crucified me on the internet because the first mistake I've ever made publicly on the internet is taking a green bottle and I didn't know it all my rye and just say these are rye because the color green was used for the band. I still remember because the amount of people that just came to me and just called me a dumbass was so long that I would never I would that's a lesson I had to learn forever, that only John J. Bowman expression when it's green is the single barrel. So tell me about the single barrel J.
Yeah,
Bowman. And
and why we picked green.
I heard also that now this is part of the Sazerac barrel picking also portfolio, because you guys are now making it part of the drawing when people want to get single barrel, either Buffalo Trace one. I heard, and you can confirm that J Bowman is also now part of that picking where people can actually choose to actually have a JJ Bowman expression as a single barrel.
That's 100% correct. So about the single barrels, both our Bowman Brothers and our John Jays are available for that. The John Jays, again, 9.5 years, 100 proof, really, really nice and tasty. And then you're right, they both are available for single barrel select. The neat thing about the Bowman Brothers is because this is a blend, when you do a single barrel select, you like, that's not on the market. You won't find that in the shelves unless you see that neck tag that says that it's part of Sazerac Barrel Select, because we don't do single
Okay.
barrels that way, right?
But would that be also a 45 or at a
We
higher
only do
proof?
those at 45. We would do that at 45 ABV, just so that we're not going to change the proof. And when changing the proof, that's a
Correct.
whole different legality on, then my label has to
Correct.
change. And then I have to have two different UPCs on the back of the bottle for the proof. And so we've just kept it the same, but just tried to distinguish it by having its own single barrel, or yeah, being a single barrel with a neck tag. It's a little confusing. We're trying to
Correct.
figure it out. And then with the John Jay, that's again 9.5 to 10 years old. That's part of the single barrel select program. What I want to say about that, that is a really fun expression to do and to make and to find throughout the warehouse. I really like having to go through and pick those barrels and see which ones would work well, as try to make it like a select for that single barrel process. But just in general, going through and tasting all those barrels is really a fun time. No John Jay is bottled without my approval of the taste profile. I also have a production manager. She also helps me with this. So we both go through and, prior to it being bottling, make sure that it tastes right and everything is right in that prior to hitting the bottle and getting to the shelf and getting to you. It's a really delicious product. As far as the green color, you're right. A
Yeah.
lot of people do reference green as being rye. When we put away rye barrels, that barrel head that you saw was in black. That black stands for bourbon. Our rye barrels are actually painted green, right? So that green
Okay.
is synonymous with rye. But for that John Jay, we did go with a green label. And that was a lovely marketing pick that we were like, let's do it, let's go with it, and let's see what happens. So there was no,
Got me in trouble. Got me in
I don't know if
trouble.
there was a rhyme or
But
reason for green, but it's what it is, and we're sticking with it, and we're going to keep going.
all right, all right. I mean, nothing wrong with that. So one of those things that I wanted to make sure we highlight is your finished product. So obviously you have the port finish, which is one. Can I ask what type of port cask do you guys use to actually have those port
That's right.
finish?
So we use ruby port straight from Portugal, right? So that port barrel finish is logistically challenging for us to create, or for me to get all the pieces together, because I not only have to so what happens is you have to get these barrels from Portugal shipped all the way across the sea. And then when they get here, I then open them all up and I nose each one. So I stick my nose deep into each barrel and make sure that there's no sulfur notes or no off-putting moldiness or any other aspect to it, because you don't want to have that in your barrel prior to putting your whiskey in. Once we smell all those barrels, me and my team, then we'll go ahead and fill those with 4-year-old whiskey. We'll let that whiskey sit anywhere from 3 to 6 months. Again, that's based on what those barrels are able to soak in and what that flavor profile looks like. Once they've sat for that period of time, we then put them in a really large wooden tank called a foeder. That's Foeder, and in there, that those barrels are allowed to blend together. And when we go to bottle, what we'll do is we'll pull about half of that foeder's volume out into a bottling tank, and then we'll throw new barrels that were just freshly dumped of port on top. So it's almost like a Solera-esque style system where that first batch of Isaac that we've ever done is still in that tank because we've never drained it at some mathematical percentage, right? And so that helps us get kind of consistent flavor throughout that Isaac, as well as I think it helps blend all those different barrels together, because you will get very pungent barrels that have a lot of that ruby port flavors of those like jammy notes in there, and then others that are a little bit lighter. So it really does help to blend all those pieces together. I think Isaac is one of my favorite to sip on and drink, because it is so, mainly because I know the logistical challenges that are involved in producing it.
That was actually my introduction to Bowman brand. The
Port barrel.
the
Yeah,
port barrel, and I thought it was solid. Before all the rumors about it's just Sazerac in another barrel, but
no, we do all
honest,
that here on site, and so that's all taken care of by my team, with figuring out the barrels and getting them allocated over to us or brought over to us and all that piece.
so before we get into what I call the pièce de résistance, the reason why we triggered this interview was triggered. Do you talked about some experimentation that you're working on? Will we see a Bowman brother in a rum cast?
I mean, I try to keep what I'm experimenting on very close to the chest, right? I want the
Okay.
surprise. I want the excitement. If I come on and tell you, here are the next 5 things I got coming out, well, that might not be right.
Yeah. Yeah.
The juice
I mean, I
the
agree.
juice
I
might
agree.
not turn out well, or I need to let it age longer. I need something else to happen. So I really try not to talk about what we're fooling around with. But if you have an idea, I'm happy. I'll write down Bowman Brothers in a rum cask finish. I like that idea. I
Right.
don't know if that.
I mean, you already, making some rum there and doing, other things there. So, I'm just 100% curious to see if maybe that's, I mean, after all, I am pressed. I would love if you give me a scoop, I'm gonna jump on it.
We'll see.
So, so I just wanted to make sure that, hey, I have to ask for the folks that are watching, at least for them to know what is it that what may be coming down the pipeline. So, question is, as we get into this new expression, is Bowman Distillery a place that people can come? Do they do tours like Buffalo Trace? And what are things that people can expect if I'm in Virginia, I'm in DC, I'm like, hey, I want to see what is happening there, because I know the only time I get an email is when you guys do the
That's
lotteries
right.
for the Castro and Expression. And I know even in COVID, you guys one of the first people to put a lottery out for these expressions that were coming out. So how does that look like? Because I see, I will show you guys as we are talking. The campus looks nice from the outside. Is it a place to visit? How can people come? If you can, as I show people
Yeah.
the campus and the place.
So you're right. We are an hour south of Washington, D.C., and an hour north of Richmond, Virginia, in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Our home place is open every day of the week. We only close about like 4 days out of the year. We run complimentary tours and tastings every hour on the hour, starting at 10 a.m. and finishing. The last tour starts at 4 p.m. And that's Monday through Saturday. On Sunday, we shorten those hours down where the first tour starts at noon and the last tour again is at 4 o'clock. So our gift shop's open till 5 p.m., where you can come buy bottles and different materials and shirts and hats and all those pieces. And then as you see on the tour, what you get to see is you get to go into our barrel warehouse. You get to see and smell the great things that are going on. You'll see our bottling line. That picture of the gentleman on the stairs, he was taking samples off the still. That's Jimmy. He's our most tenured employee that we have here. He's been with us for more than 30 years. He runs our still. You can go and see Jimmy and talk to him about his process. And all of that is available for you as you are guided through the distillery. You get to see the dump room where we dump barrels and where we fill barrels. We give you a little bit of history, and it's all, like I said, complimentary. It takes roughly about 35 to 40 minutes and then about 15 minutes of tasting, so a full hour. We don't have food on site, but we are close to downtown Fredericksburg, which has lots of great lunch options or dinner options based on what time of day you're coming over. And and then our tastings, we do a complimentary tastings on each one of those tours. And the tasting menu, typically we rotate it throughout the days. Every day it's kind of a different thing that we're going through or different number of samples that we're providing. So I couldn't tell you what today they're tasting, but I know that we run through all of the products that we make throughout those tasting pieces.
That is dope.
And then that's
So if any of you, any of you are around Virginia and wanna maybe grab a little tour and know a little bit about the distillery, guess what? They're open.
and that's our still right there that Sarah is standing in front of. So that's Mary is what we affectionately call her. That's Jimmy's lady right there that he works on every day producing that whiskey.
That is very dope. Now let's come to your. I want to say yearly, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is your castrant or the A Smith Bowman release a yearly thing or semi-annual?
I try to put cast strength out once a year. I
Okay.
try to put out an Abraham once a year ish. But again,
Okay.
there are a lot of factors that go into it, and the largest one is the juice ready? Are the barrels tasting right, and are they ready to be pulled out and dumped? Because we're not going to do it prematurely to make a subpar product. So I typically try to do one a year. And like you said, if you follow us on social media, you'll see when those lotteries open up for these special release bottles. I figured that was the most fair way for anyone to actually be able to get their hands on it. Now, we do ask that you come to Virginia and to our gift shop if you win the lottery. Um, and
That's the reason why I never participated because
but
but I think it's very fair. I think it's very fair because but I have both ways about it because for me it's like nowadays as we stand, I know the legalese. You have to come to the distillery, get it from the gift shop because of the legality. But you are in Virginia, you are two-step away from DC, which can ship from anywhere. So for me, when I look at this option, I'm like, come on, dude. The least you can do is to give the opportunity to people to bond this thing, take it down to Virginia to DC down the street. And I'm playing devil's advocate here, even though I understand the legalese of it. For someone who this is gonna be officially my first time trying the cast strength because I've tried to get my hands on it. I've never won the lottery, believe it or not. I never won. I do participate every time it comes out. But even me, in my position, I want to make sure people understand. Even me, my position, I still don't get access to this bottle. It is open to everyone. So either you're new in the industry or in the whiskey loving, or you're old in the whiskey loving. There's no guarantee that you can put your hands on this. You literally have to work for it and earn it and go to it and grab your bottle and be able to say you have it, right? But I'm gonna convince David after this interview to start putting bottles down to DC So some of us can actually buy it and get shipped to us somewhere around
Country.
the
All
United
right.
States.
So
This is the most sought after whiskey in every year on the market. Literally the most sought after whiskey.
so I what is sold out of the gift shop through the lottery is for Virginia's distribution, right? And then
Correct.
I'll distribute the rest to certain markets, right? So you do have a chance if you aren't able to get to Virginia and aren't able to participate in the lottery that there are markets that you might be able to find this cast strength at. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what those markets are.
But you just started doing that because I
Correct.
remember the first two lottery or three lottery. Unless you are there in Virginia, no way, Jose, you will not get your hands on
That's right.
this
And it's
bottle.
because we were continuing to grow, right? So our first one was we dumped those barrels and there wasn't enough volume we thought to distribute nationwide. And then the second one and the third one, or the third one, we were able to do it. And this fourth one will be able to do it as well. And so once my lottery is now closed for this one. So you no longer are able to get in. And I have people pick up the bottles right now, today, and for the next, I think, week. And then we'll ship out all the remaining cases to the distributor, who will then slowly send them out to the markets that they go in. So you still do have a chance to find this on your liquor store shelves around the country.
So I'm gonna display it for people to see what it looks like. But correct me if I'm wrong. You did change the design.
No, this has always been the cast strength design. We've only done four, right? So I've done three of
Yeah.
these blends. The master distiller before me, Brian Pruitt, who all the juice in this one is Brian Pruitt's barrels. I just get the honor of blending it, but it's his, and try to showcase what a great job he did at distilling and letting him soak and all the other aspects. But this is the same design. The only thing that changes every year, obviously, is the ABV and proof. I try to keep
Okay.
it a 10-year-old. Last year, I needed to bring some 9-year-olds in there to kind of sweeten it up. And because I put, one drop of 9-year-old in, I couldn't call it a 10-year-old. I had to call it in the youngest
Correct.
years. But this year, I was able to do all 10-year-old barrels. So we were able to get that 10-year statement. And again, we went for, when it all came out, it was 139.7 proof, about 3 proof shy of 140. And so about that, I'm not gonna chase a proof to try to get it as high as possible, right? So I'm not gonna try for hazmat. I didn't even proof the barrels when I was going through the blend to see which ones were gonna go in, because I didn't want that to be in my mindset. I wanted to be thinking about what is the best flavor profile I can get out of these barrels that I have at my disposal, and which ones should be considered for part of the blend. So when it was all said and done, it came out that close to 140. I don't say I was surprised, because we typically get barrels out of our barrel warehouse at above 138 to about 141, 142 ish. They do get very high in the climate that we have here. But I was very happy with not only the proof, but the flavor profile that came along with it.
David,
What are you thinking?
David. The nose. Um, so I tell people this, right? I tell people that there is such a thing as recognizing the nose of a good bourbon. Like it, like I'm gonna sound a little gross, but if somebody had a wet dream of the best thing they could have in the best dream, there is a scent that come through that reminds you of what you know. What a good. It doesn't matter if it's barbecue, if it's your favorite food, your favorite perfume, but there's something specific that when you smell it, you just tell yourself, "This is gonna be good," right? And it goes to show immediately when you talk that you're not looking for proof, you're looking for that portfolio and taste and kind of a harmonious thing on the nose. When I smelled it immediately, right, nipples hard, mine up there. I'm like, the nose is what it's like what good bourbon should smell like. This is
Oh,
what
I
it is.
appreciate that. I was gonna try to give tasting notes, but
Man,
man, you're doing it. That's it right there. And then you smell a little bit of oakiness, a little bit of the char on there, and you get some of that
exactly, dude.
sweetness.
It's like perfect. Like, have you ever had the perfect popcorn? Like you know when you smell it, like this is gonna be some good ass popcorn. Like that's how I feel when I just smell this. I'm like, it's like you get that perfect corn, that perfect floral, that perfect char, a little bit of that burnt. It's like when I was a kid, we make a toffee at home with concentrated milk. So that burnt, when you're done with making toffee, there is that burnt sweet the sugar that stay at the bottom of that. There's that beautiful smell of burnt butterscotch toffee that you get, and you're like,
That's gonna be
this gonna
lovely.
be a party. Like that's where we start in this thing.
Um,
And that is the nose on this thing. It's like your favorite auntie giving you a hug. That's what this nose is.
and then as you sip, that real nice oakiness, the cinnamon, the I mean, it's a little bit of like leather. It's just really smooth. The sweetness comes forward. It is very high proof, so it will kind of tingle your tongue. That first sip, you might have to let it sit and then come back again and visit it again because it is quite high. But it's a really great whiskey that we're very very proud of producing.
You know what? I'm done talking about it. Let me sip it and see if the nose equates the taste.
Um, and like so last year I'd bring in 9 because it was just I'm always chasing a great flavor profile, right? I'm not going to chase the proof. I'm not going to chase even the age. It's really about making the best quality product we can make.
Throw it away. Throw everything away. Throw it away. Throw everything away. If you're in church, I would say, Pastor, preach. This right here is, I knew it. I knew it from, like, there are bourbon that will lure you in. Great nose, horrible taste. There are bourbon that have okay nose, but then amazing taste. This right here, I never had batch one, two, or three, so I don't know. But I'm just basing this on batch four. This is my top 10 high proof bourbon of the year
Oh man, I
already.
really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Uh,
This is this is crazy. This is ridiculous.
it has some great, like you're right, like toffee, hard candy kind of notes that
Yeah.
are coming through. It really is a really nice, and it's incredibly high.
Good God.
It's like you're in the barrel warehouse with me, and you're picking barrels, and we're opening
Correct.
barrels, and you're tasting, and we find that one honey barrel off to the side that didn't get too much sunlight and just a little bit of right amount of wind, and we crack it open, and that's what we're looking for.
This is where we are. It's like I'm sitting right here while you collecting the
That's right.
sample. It's literally like I was there. It's I'm telling you, David, if this is you've outdone
And this
yourself.
is
You've
and this
outdone
is
yourself.
non-chill
I
filtered, so we try to keep as much flavor as possible in here, so that you can experience what it's like to come through.
George C. Stagware. George C. Stagware. This is it. This is it. And if I'm lucky, if I'm around Virginia in the market that is in, dude, I'm going and grabbing three. One to drink. Yeah, seriously. One to drink, one to actually have as backup to impress my friend, and one to keep and tell people as an old man, son, this is what bourbon used to be when we were growing up. Like those are things I am. You want to
Yeah.
damn. This is good. This is good. And not to put, not to blow smoke up you know what, but this you did
Oh, I
well.
appreciate that very
You
much.
did
Thank you. And we are growing, right? So as you see, one, we weren't able to get out of the state, and three, we were able to get a little bit of distribution. But this is going to be, each year we get more barrels. I get more barrels that are coming of age that we put down, 10 years ago. So hopefully, the idea is that you will eventually be able to walk in and find this on the shelf at your local liquor store. I know it's pretty challenging right now, and that's not the case. But we are continuing to put down more this year and the previous year so that we will have enough for the larger distributions with this.
I'm gonna display this again so you guys can see it and know what you should be looking for. And guess what? At the end, on that finish, you get that Kentucky hug, or should we call it the
The
Virginia
Kentucky
hug?
hug is real.
And then there is that slight, what I look for in a really good bourbon, that slight licorice, right? Just that slight licorice. Like now I want to add a little bit of water
Hmm.
to it to see what happened to it when it opens up
It'll bloom out.
as a
That's right.
spirit.
That's right. It blooms out.
What, and again, there is no shame here, right? I want to remind everyone there is no shame on having water in your whiskey. You are not Terminator. You don't have to actually be strong for us. It's okay to put your whiskey through the ringer so you can see which flavors are actually coming
And
out. So I'm gonna add just a dash of water to
and that's
mine
right.
to
And
just
it'll
exactly.
bloom, it'll become more floral, it'll get more notes will come across, you'll get a whole different profile. And that's why we try to do cast strength. It's not to try to get the highest proof ever, it's to give you the ability to drink it at the proof you like. So whether that's 135 to 115 to 80 or lower, just you get control and you get to decide what's the best flavor profile at what level you like, which you don't really ever get to do in your whiskey experience that often.
I'm telling you now, nah. Mm-hmm. 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 A little bit of water, and those tannins kind of go on the side a little bit, and now you get more of that
Yeah.
char, that perfect burnt toast that you're looking for. More of those caramel notes are climbing up. Um, for me, remind me of rose bushes. Smell fresh in the morning. You get that through your palate, and then you actually, you come down, and we are going immediately down to, like, on you on that right at the finish there is like those perfect light star anise and ginger that you get on there. Not too much, just light enough to keep you entertained, not too much to keep you almost wondering what the heck is this.
Oh,
So
you got
for
that good
me,
sommelier vocabulary.
but I tell you what, I'm gonna display this one more time. If you are looking for a bourbon to get this year and you're wondering what in the heck should I get this year, that should be on my list. A. Smith Bowman Batch 4 Cast Strength definitely has to be on your list of things to get. Now, I will tell you right now, if you're somebody who is afraid of those tannin note, those oaky note, you are not going to, what do you call it?
Those are-
You are not going to immediately love it. You got to let it sit for it to calm down, mellow down a little bit for you to get to it. But I would say the best way to go over that is literally a little bit of water, and it will bloom up perfectly. You'll get more of those upper notes. There is a question here that come through. We answered it before, but I will let you tell Mr. Alpha Haas. He said, Mr. Bog, do you allow barrel pick? If so, how do I contact you for an opportunity for a pick? I will let you answer. We said this before, but it'll be good for people to hear it
Yeah.
again.
So we do get a number of requests for single barrel picks, and we have to filter all of that through Sazerac Barrel Select. So if you go on to Sazerac Barrel Select website, you can register and then just pick the whiskey that you're looking for. We're part of the opportunities to pick from there. And that's the only way that you'll be able to get a single barrel is to go through that website, because we do get so many requests and we only have so many barrels that we can provide each year.
Correct. Correct. So this is something for you guys to actually know. If you haven't heard this,
Yep.
this is how it goes. Because for all of you who don't know, Bowman is part of the Sazerac
And they're
family.
starting to
So they
do they're
have
starting
to.
to do those picks, right, where they like do the barrel and pull out. So we're part of that as well. And then that's
Correct.
another opportunity for you to get a barrel as well, or the opportunity to purchase one.
So I think every drawing they do it
Mhm.
quarterly, and every drawing usually have around 10 people that they pick to actually do, so you get a choice to pick whatever you want out of that. One thing I would tell you also, if you are in the Sazerac drawing, especially Alpha House, if you're doing this, I know a lot of people don't do barrel pick just for profit. They do it for non-profit. I know a lot of non-profit Sazerac allow non-profit to actually have the opportunity to have a barrel pick to support nonprofit that they're working towards. So that's also another opportunity for you to be able to get your hands on a barrel and use that for nonprofit and help the cause that you're going
Absolutely,
after.
done
Now,
we've
before
done
I
lots of
go
nonprofits
ahead,
as well, but it all goes through that
correct,
website no matter what. So
correct, correct. So before I let you go, I need to know what should the average consumer should the average consumer expect out of Bowman, right? Obviously, the cast strength is out. You said next week after it closes, you guys are sending on the market. But what should we see? Is it going to be the same thing that be happening before, just a small batch and port? The port one that is always on every market every now and then. We are lucky to see the single barrel. What should we expect
um,
out of
well, you kind of you hinted at it a little bit. I got a lot of stuff playing around with, right? Brian left me a lot of fun things in this warehouse that are aging up and getting ready. Now, for our main SKUs or our main products that we deliver, if we do an experimental and it really is a hit, we have no problem if we can support it to turn that into a full line. That's what happened with that port barrel finish. We took whiskey and just did a small run of it and submitted it, and it won world's best whiskey. And so we're like, well,
yeah,
there's something here. Let's run with it, and we turned it into a full line. So if we do find one of the experimental barrels that we're doing, or one of the experimental mash bills turns out really really nice, we are small enough and nimble enough and agile enough to be able to turn around and turn that into a full line. Um,
would that be a 2025 things, or will we look more of a, hey, 2026 for now, 2025 we kind of keeping it small and steady, or will 2025 still have maybe a surprise before the end of the year, before we actually see anything coming up? And for all of you here, if you don't know, the website, or they're on social media at A Smith Bowman. If you want to follow them, social media A Smith Bowman, or you can actually go, literally, I will tell you, I tell people all the time, when people actually tell me the same question, I say Google is a fantastic thing. So if you actually just want to know about the distillery, is asmithbowman.com. I'm going to display it right here. You can find out a lot about what they're doing on their website. You are somebody who keep up also with all the information needed for people to know. So I want people to know this is not a quote unquote, you know, a gotcha type of thing. It's like, if you want to know something, make sure you visit the distillery website. You will know what's happening, and also on their social media. But I need to know, as a super fan now that I had a chance, after 4 years, I had a chance to finally try this cast strength, and it is better than what I expected. They say never meet your heroes, but I think this is really something. I'm glad I met my hero. What is it that the average consumer, or super fan of Bowman, should look forward to? Like, what should we look
well,
forward to?
I'm not going to rush Father Time or hurry up Mother Nature, right? So I can't give you time frames. Time frames are real tricky around aging products. Um, I I have some ideas of what's coming out, but nothing that's worth sharing because I don't know if it'll finish off. Right? I have a good idea of what's coming. I think that if you are able to find that John Jay, I know it's a little bit trickier now. I'm trying to do just like cast strength, dump more barrels, get that into more markets as fast as I can. We used to be able to find it pretty easy, and now it's getting a little bit more challenging. I think because more people we're getting the word out about the good products we're doing down here in Fredericksburg, Virginia. So it's a little bit challenging, but yeah, I don't nothing that I'm ready to release now. There is some interesting stuff coming, stuff that I think you'll really like, but gonna be tight-lipped.
There's as open as Bowman is, they also just like Bruno, they don't talk about Bruno and they try to keep it thing. But I would say stay tuned. Make sure that you actually are keeping an eye on what's happening in the industry.
And I had to clear
um
off my desk because I had all this experiments right there, and I was like, "Well, let me get this off in
you
case
see you
somebody
see you
sees it."
see I wish I was in earlier. I could have taken a screen grab and show you what's happening. But I'm looking forward myself to come visit the distillery, come see what is happening
Please come see
there.
us.
Hopefully, I'll be in Virginia. Hopefully by the end of May. So I will try my best to actually come down and come visit and see exactly
Yeah,
what
and on that
what.
website, we have different
Yeah,
events that we do as well. So we have a summer fest that we try to put on every year. This year, we're doing a bourbon on the half shell, like an oyster one, to help support the local river here, to help clean the river. So we do all kinds of events. You don't have to come just for a tour. We try to have different things available throughout the year for you as well.
absolutely. So I'm looking forward to it. And for all of you guys here, remember is A Smith Bowen. Sign up, get on their social media, A Smith Bowen, Bowman. I'm This is gonna be it's gonna go in a vault for me. It's gonna be part of those whiskey. I'm gonna tell you. If you think you've had good bourbon, I'm gonna pour you something that will actually impress you. David, any last word for all the people that are coming into the whiskey industry that are new, that are maybe looking on the shelf and going to why, any last word on why they should make Bowman Brothers or A. Smith Bowman part of their whiskey choice of the night?
There are a lot of options when you walk into that shelf and see the volume of bourbon that's being put out there. I think we make a really great product. I don't think that you'll be disappointed when you pull this off the shelf and give us a shot. And hopefully, we'll make some raving fans out of you. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. The only thing I've had out of Bowman have been the port, and I know I've tried a small batch a few years back, but today you definitely have a new fan in me because this cast strength whiskey. The tagline from Hood Sommelier is "The truth is barrel proof," and I think this cast strength whiskey made me a Bowman super fan now, and I will go around and tell folks about it. I want to thank you for taking your lunch and coming and hanging out with us and making sure that we are here and hear more about the distillery. Remember, this is now your home. You're now welcome anytime, and anytime you actually wanna talk about whiskey, any new
Oh, that's right.
release,
I'll give
we'll
you. I'll give
love.
you the scoop.
Yeah, yeah. Any new release, uh, I will. I'll be more than happy. Come here, talk about it, and I'm sure people will be happy to listen.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much for
thank
having
you
me.
so much, David. For it's my pleasure to have you here, and for all of you guys here, make sure you follow Hood Sommelier on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Jack Bigadoo on LinkedIn and anywhere else. People on Facebook, make sure you share this with your friends. And for all of you guys, we've answered the question about that whole. It's just as rack in the bottle. David gave us the real answer today, so we're not gonna go in an argument about it anymore. And if you have any other question, make sure you send them my way. I'll make sure to send out to David, and he'll be more than happy to actually give you an answer.